The next session is going to be a keynote session. Well, this is about thinking global, the opportunity beyond Indian markets. And to talk about the same, I request Mr. Karan Kapoor, Executive Director, K Hospitality Corp, to please join us on stage. Please welcome Mr. Karan Kapoor with the hugest applause, everyone. Can we do it loud together? All right, over to you.
Hi everyone, hope everyone's doing well. Can you hear me clearly in the back? Perfect. So guys, just a quick intro. My name's Karan Kapoor. I'm the Executive Director of K Hospitality. We operate across multiple formats and really play in all the touch points of a consumer journey. So we're present across restaurants, bars, cafes, food courts, banqueting, office food services. We operate brands like Copper Chimney, Irish House. We operate in the airports with a company called TFS. So a lot of different things in F&B which we do and we operate. So today I'm really there to talk about global and the opportunity that's there. And I thought what I could do is just share a bit of our experiences and our journey and when we've moved outside the country. So today we're present across 7 countries. We've moved international over the last decade and set up operations in various businesses. The strategy has been threefold. So one has been taking some of our Indian cuisine and Indian food brands to international markets, as well as create some custom-built or market-suited brands as well in some of these international markets. The second has been taking our travel business, the travel retail business of TFS, into some new frontier markets where we've entered, for example, into Malaysia with a lot of stores and our lounge business there as well. And the third is really looking at growth markets in the future, which we believe are markets which over the next 10, 20 years can grow quite rapidly. And there we've taken rights for QSR brands and we've taken the franchises and we're looking to scale. So we've signed up with Domino's Pizza, we've entered Africa with them, and we're scaling up in that continent as well. So these are the 3 areas where we're looking at growth and how we've been taking our international journey as well forward. I think, in terms of the opportunity, and I know the last panel mentioned a bit about it as well, I think whether you look at matured markets or developing markets, I think the opportunity, of course, international is immense. We've seen in matured markets, compared to our stores in India, transactions have been higher, spends have been higher, and you're seeing stores do 3 to 4 times of what a typical store might do in India. So a lot of potential from the sales side. In growth markets, which are very early stage developing markets, you see competition's lower, you see rents much, much lower. So you're actually seeing margins being quite high relative to India as well for like-to-like formats as well. So there's a lot of, I think, great opportunity when you look at international markets, depending on which country, of course, that you're looking at, which continent as well. I think the key piece, which we've seen also, and I think this is a question that we've got a lot, when we speak to people, is how challenging are some of these markets. And what I can tell you is just looking at India as a country, all of y'all, I mean, everyone's an entrepreneur, restaurant owner, business owner here. India is challenging, right? There are a lot of challenges on manpower, building brands, dealing with licensing, like we spoke in the last talk as well. I would really clearly say that it's not more challenging. And arguably in some of these markets, it's actually easier to operate. So you're really the skill sets that you build in India help you a lot to deal in these markets and compete. And I think the key point is challenges are there, but they're different. But ultimately, it's not more challenging than operating in India. And I think that's something we've seen also where Indian entrepreneurs, Indian professionals, we've been traveling different countries, meeting people. They're there in all these global companies. We have Indians who have moved from India, working with global F&B brands and doing phenomenally. Similarly, a lot of young entrepreneurs who've been setting up businesses in these countries are Indian, who've shown that with the talent and with the knowledge we learn in India, we can actually compete with some of the biggest brands and companies in those markets. In terms of when I look at the opportunities and what we've seen, I think Indian food was something which was mentioned, and we've seen that whether from biryanis to curries, when you go from London to Japan, Indian food is in some way present. Of course, it's adapted, it's different, the flavors have been tweaked, ingredients, there are a lot of things which have been done, but Indian food is well known, it's well recognized, and there's a lot of relevance. And we've seen that when we've opened in some of these markets, actually Indian food has taken off very well. But similarly, the opportunity may not just be Indian food. I mean, Sagar gave the example of hopefully a Wow Momo in Times Square one day. There's opportunities to look at other brands outside Indian food and really scale, given the know-how, operational expertise, and products that we're developing today. You're seeing world-class products coming out of India, and that really is a big opportunity, I think, where people can really look at. Um, I think that before, everyone expands, I'd want to just, however, pull back. And, I think the important question first to always ask is it the right time? Is it the right time to expand abroad? Is it the right time to really, diversify into these markets? In terms of our journey, which I'd like to share with you, when we started international, when we entered our first country, we waited 5 years before we moved to the next. We spent 5 years just learning the market, understanding what the challenges, working abroad, new country, new dynamics, new customer. When we entered the UK, we spent 2.5 years just studying the market, traveling, understanding concepts, understanding supply chains, rents, sales, whatever challenges on compliance. So really getting a deep understanding before we took the first step. That too, after we did all that effort, we ended up opening a few months before COVID hit. So timing-wise, it was horrible. But we've bounced back. And now, today in the morning you heard about Omicron, but the concepts before this last week were doing extremely well, making money, very high sales, doing better than pre-COVID as well. But of course, you have to be ready for some of these ups and downs which could happen in your journey. So really, I think, when you're looking at some of these businesses, I think planning ahead and not just jumping in first is extremely, extremely critical, especially in a new country when you're getting in. Some businesses have done very well in COVID. When we opened up the Domino's store in Africa, we had about 1,000 people who lined up on the first day. So it was in the middle of COVID. I was there at the store. We were at the door and you had 1,000 people waiting. First, it's intimidating, of course, because that was peak COVID and people were coming out in those numbers. But the models can work. You choose the right model, even in a COVID environment, which is delivery-centric, does extremely well. And I think those are some of the dynamics to think about when you're choosing which format to scale in some of these international markets. But same way, like when we enter something like Africa, I think we know it's going to take us time to understand the African consumer, local tastes, product, localization. And that takes time, energy, and effort, and that's years of investment. So I think it's a journey which you need to get into, and what you need to realize is you'll always be on a back foot compared to a local entrepreneur who understands the consumer, who's born and brought up in that market. Today, international brands coming in, or an international entrepreneur trying to set up business in India may not be able to be as agile as some of you all sitting here. It's the same challenge you'll face there. You might be operationally strong, but really understanding that local consumer is where the challenge comes out. And I think that needs time, energy, and investment, which you need to see if you can step out and do as well. In terms of our strategy, when we've been looking at now, when we've been growing as well, the few investments we've made internationally, we look at it in terms of a portfolio. We've got multiple brands, multiple verticals. How do you look at international as part of that strategy of diversification? So we've taken a few bets in a few regions and countries where we do believe in the next 10, 20 years, they can be as big as our business in India. And so we're looking at it from a horizon over that period. It's not something where you enter, make money quickly and get out. I think it takes time to build, to grow businesses, to build your brands, to build even the profitable model. So if you are entering international, I think horizon is important. The business for us, we've been in the business now, it's going to be our 50th year next year. So we're really investing, thinking, okay, for the next 50 years, where is it really the right markets, where the growth opportunity is going to be? Finally, I think the last piece, which I want to touch on, and this is a question also which we get a lot, is about franchising. Is franchising the right strategy? Should you do franchising when you look at international markets? Many people use the word that franchising is free money. And I think what you need to remember is that franchising also can be a free headache. You need to be, it's important to one, of course, you can work with experts like Ritu and her team, but it's important to think through how are you going about your franchising strategy. Most of us as entrepreneurs, we always feel the opportunity is running away. If we don't grab it, someone else is going to get it. It's only now, it's never. And I think somewhere that ends up where we take decisions faster or jump into opportunities before we're ready. And we've made the mistake. I think today we've made enough mistakes. We've entered some countries where we've exited in the past. So we've seen that. And I think that's where we feel that the first important step is consolidating your base. Without a strong base, which is your existing business, without strong systems, a strong business in India, in your home market, jumping into new territories can be challenging. It's great if it works. I think what you need to, however, think about is what happens if it fails? What happens if it's struggling? Are you able to then pull out of your existing business and put all your energy into supporting your franchisee or your business internationally? So I think it's important to really see with your franchisees, can you not only support them when they're successful, but are you able to support and help them when they're not, when they're failing? To give you some examples as well, we've had franchisees. I mean, one example we keep using internally. He took the franchise for one of our brands and opened up. First store, runaway success. He was doing about 30 crores from one store as a restaurant, 2,000 square feet. Phenomenal numbers. You don't see that in India happening. He got a return on capital in, I believe, under 12 months, what he invested for a full restaurant. Immediately scaled up, opened up the second store. Again, phenomenal response, doing very well. Opened the third store, opened the fourth store in a very rapid phase, very excited. Then he said, oh, okay, look, I'm doing so well. I've hit the nail on the head. He went and franchised with 4 other brands, immediately to scale up and ramp up his business because he saw that it's working so well. Fast forward to today, his entire business has come to a standstill. All the new investments he didn't work out. His new stores have all failed. Then COVID hit, which is a double whammy. Entire business of what he was going on a great trajectory has come to a standstill, and he's not now able to kind of ramp up again. So it's important to be cautious. I think we've all heard about failures and the high failure rate of the F&B industry. I think building your base, building your concept, building your profitability, cash flow, the opportunity is, I think the key message I want to say is the opportunity is not running away. You look at today at Domino's and everyone talks about it as the market leader. 15 years back, Domino's was actually a struggling brand, both in the US and other markets globally. It's the last 15 years where they came in, got the product right, got the systems right, and today people don't remember the history, but it's really in the last 15 years where the brand has now taken over every other pizza brand around the world. So they also entered the game late. It's not, Pizza Hut is older, and some of these brands are 20, 30 years older than a Domino's. So I think keep that message in mind. The opportunity is not running away. It's not. India is in a very, very, very early stage. And today, even for you to grow in India and then take those brands abroad, you have a very long period of time to do that. I think, just to end, which is the last piece I'd like to share also just from our journey, in international markets is, we've seen in some of these markets, opportunities are tremendous. We've seen, for example, I'll give you an example in the UK where we saw someone in the QSR sector. Just in one city of London, we've seen people build up businesses of 1,000 crores, operating one single brand. Now that sounds exciting and that sounds a great number and saying, oh, in one city I can scale and build such a business. But again, I think the key part is while we have the talent, we have the knowledge, is it the right time? And what I really feel is that for Indian entrepreneurs, we will get there. It will be an opportunity that we'll all scale up to. I think the important thing is figuring out when is the right time for your business and then taking it forward from there. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Kapur. And with this, we'd like to take just one question. Anybody? Please hand over the mic to ma'am.
Thanks, Karan. Thanks for sharing this. Now, you made a very interesting point about Domino's and then, of course, the rebuilding of Domino's, and now you're building it in Africa. So as an Indian entrepreneur, who've built restaurants in India, when you're going outside India to do a brand like Domino's or even other brands, what is it that sort of, scares you the first thing? I mean, what sort of holds you back initially? And then, India has its own unique challenges, and we've always had brands telling us that, India is a tough market, but I'm sure for Indians, other markets are tough. Sure. So what are those areas? So
Ritu, I think the one point is I personally don't believe other markets are tough. I think it's a mindset. I think, when we look at it and when we compare apple to apple, I'll argue that actually setting up in the business in Africa was easier than sometimes we set up in new markets in India. So I think it's a different set of challenges, but of course I won't rate them tougher. I think, when we're looking at some of these markets, we're scaling internationally, the important thing is not to hold back, not to have the mindset that you hold back. I think when you're entering, you have to have the conviction behind the brand, behind the opportunity, and of course do your research to validate that conviction. I won't recommend just jumping and saying, dekhenge, let's see what happens and we'll learn on the fly. So with Domino's, the discussions have been going on since 2017. We finally launched in 2020. So 3 years, planning, visits, market studies, competition analysis, supply chain readiness, etc. So we did that investments. So by the time we launched, we were in a much stronger base. And so I think when you look at global opportunities, I think the important thing is going with strong research, but also being ready to know that everything you've researched will be useless 6 months later. And that's what we've seen. You know, we've started off in the market, phenomenal response, great traction. We've already opened 2 stores. We've got another 3 planned in the next few months. So we're ramping up fast, but we're also learning tremendously. And then that's what, when we go in, all our teams think, in 6 months, we're going to completely change the business model upside down. And now we're learning what's the right size of the location, what's the right locations, what's the right menu, what's the best way to plan your supply chain, what's the marketing that works. I don't know the local language, right? And so you have to deal with challenges around that. What are the flavor profiles? You know, veg food, like we say peppy paneer, and we have all these products which are great in Domino's India. We sell maybe 1 veg pizza a month. You know, no one cares for veg food at all. So it's a completely different dynamic in terms of the products which are there. Delivery, we talk about delivery Domino's, but it's actually very centric to dine-in there. Delivery is still not picked up. Technology is still growing. So online orders are still a low percentage. So it's 20 years behind where India was. So it's like Domino's entering India back in the 90s when they did. And that's what Africa is today. Immense opportunity. And you're seeing local brands take advantage of that. KFC has done very well in the market as well. But I think these are the few principles I feel are important when you're looking at some markets abroad. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
I request Ms. Maria to please join us on stage to present the memento to Mr. Karan Kapoor. Ladies and gentlemen, can we hear it loud once again for the gentleman? Please, hand it over to Ms. Maria. Well, indeed, a great session we had. Thank you, Mr. Kapur, once again. Thank you, Ms. Maria. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, for the next session, we're going to connect virtually. Well, the next keynote address is going to be how conversational AI is enhancing CX in the F&B industry. And for this particular keynote address, Mr. Srinivas B. Vijayaraghavan, VP Marketing Gupshup, is joining us virtually.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. And hope you can hear me all right.
Yes, we can hear you.
Awesome. So excited on behalf of Gupshup to be a partner with this event and having an opportunity to share some of our thoughts with all of you. The restaurant business has been something that's been very close to our hearts as a company, and it's one of the earliest industries that we worked on helping transform through conversational AI and conversational messaging. So if you give me a second, I will just share my screen. I hope this is visible as well. If you can give me a confirmation.
You were visible earlier, now you're not visible.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, we can see your screen.
All right, perfect. So as I was saying, I mean, this is like preaching to the converted, really. But the restaurant business is all about customer experience, and all of us, the audience, obviously, a lot of you run restaurants, but as consumers of the restaurant experience, we will all vouch for the fact that we want our favorite restaurants to know a lot about us, about our preferences. And if we are trying out a new restaurant, we would not step into it if we find that the reviews or word of mouth is negative. So it's really important for the restaurant business to get, much like any other business, to get customer experience right. And this particular facet has faced a lot of challenges. And of course, COVID is one challenge, which has accelerated a move of creating digital experiences. So we believe that COVID has probably crunched maybe a 5 or 7 year digitalization cycle into maybe a 12 or 18 month cycle. And as you see some of these technologies that are being implemented in restaurants, and some of you may already have implemented these, things like AR menus, food ordering going online, payments, collecting payments online directly from your customers, creating an omni-channel experience, which is not just a physical experience, but combining website, app, a messaging app, chatbot, and sort of creating a sort of a common experience across all these channels has also started coming up. And of course, we have some new technologies like voice, like placing an order through a voice bot, etc. But what's really behind all these digital experiences is conversational AI. And we believe that our nature as human beings and our nature as business owners is to actually converse with our customers. And business is done today and always has been done through conversations. So with conversational AI, there is the ability to completely digitalize all three facets of your restaurant business, which we call as pre-purchase, where you have a lot of marketing and acquisition of new consumers, promotions, purchase, which is payments and ordering, and post-purchase, which is sustaining that relationship with your customer, getting them to order more from you, and obviously getting them to provide feedback and to review your restaurants favorably on third-party platforms. All of these use cases can be digitalized with the power of conversational AI. And I want to give you a few examples of how this works in action. Some of you may be familiar with this. So the first thing that you can do with conversational AI is you can create personalized nudges. So if you're a student of behavioral economics, we live in the era of nudges where businesses nudge us to take different kinds of actions. And as restaurants, you can create a lot of personalized nudges to get your customers to order from you online. So you can either use an SMS campaign with a link to an order system. You can even launch a WhatsApp campaign to your database. And you can even, if you have a good following on Instagram, you can do the same thing on Instagram or pretty much any other messaging channel where you have a presence. You can do this on Facebook if you have a Facebook page and you have a lot of followers. So the first application, if you will, of conversational AI is to create these digital nudges to get your customers to order from you. And it's not just it's not enough to just create digital experience. It's also important to make your physical surfaces conversational, because it's not that you're just going to become cloud kitchens overnight. You have a physical experience that you are providing to your customers, and there too, like if you have physical surfaces, they also can be made conversational through the use of QR codes. And some of our customers here have already used this to digitalize or what we call as a phygital experience, where a customer is there on premise, but they're using the QR code to engage with you in a digital manner while they are within your premises. So here are a few examples. So we have QR codes, and if you have a website, how can you start a conversation with the website visitor using a chatbot? Or if you have physical items that you place on the table, like table cards and menu, how do you get customers to start interacting with you in a digital manner while they are on premise? So once you've done that nudging and the ordering and the engagement, it's also important to continue the conversation with your customers. And that is where the real power of digital comes in, and the real power of conversational AI comes in. Because once someone is outside of your premises, or once someone has completed the task of an order or consumed your food, it's also important for you to have constant communication with them. And I don't mean that you have to spam them, but these are really well thought out customer journeys, which are highly personalized. So like any messaging platform like Gupshup can help you to plug into your customer database and create very, very personalized offers and even conversation starters. Like, for example, Christmas and New Year is coming, or Christmas is coming. So have you thought about where you're going to have your Christmas brunch or your Christmas meals? By the way, we have this excellent menu. Would you like to try it out? So imagine, like all of you, I'm sure, use WhatsApp. So imagine that your restaurant brand is living on WhatsApp, just like a friend or a family member is living on WhatsApp, and you're interacting with your restaurant brand the way you're interacting with friends or family. So this is where the continuing of the conversations can happen. And all of this stuff, by the way, can be automated. There is no manual element here. And here's an example of how the complete order, pay, and support lifecycle can be orchestrated by a chatbot on a messaging app. So this is an example of Gupshup's own messaging app, GIP. On the left, you see there is a question, what would you like to order? So somebody looks at the menu, places an order. In the middle, you see the checkout point where the payment also can be made within the app. And on the right, you see something like a post-purchase scenario. Someone is ordered and they're waiting for it and they're trying to figure out, okay, where is it, why is it late, or it tastes great, I want to give you feedback. So this whole thing can be orchestrated by a chatbot on any messaging app. This can happen on WhatsApp as well. And here, this is another example of a physical experience, like a waiter bot. Let's say you're having a really busy time in the restaurant and you can only have so many waiters, but let's say they're all busy. But with this waiter bot, somebody who comes into your restaurant physically can scan a QR code, place an order while they are there, and then, keep asking for things like, I want cutlery, I want salt and pepper, or could you, call the waiter, I want to order something more. All of this can be provided on the chatbot, and the chatbot integrates with your POS system, and then it makes your operations a lot more smoother. So you can have your employees who are there, who waiters, but in order to augment that, you can also have a waiter bot that supports them. So in conclusion, I would say, and from a Gupshup point of view, I would implore restaurant owners to invest in conversational experiences in order to transform the experience, transform the overall customer experience. And there are 3 reasons why. One is it can help you to deliver personalized experience to hundreds or thousands of your customers, depending on what your scale is. And these can be customized to any kind of restaurant there is. Like, for example, some of you may be representing restaurants that are part of large hotels, or you may have a standalone restaurant, or you may be part of a restaurant that has multiple franchises, or you could just be a shop around the corner which serves some very, very specific delicacies that people like. So this kind of technology is easy to implement for all types of restaurant segments, and this is completely no code. There's no coding or IT investment at your end. And lastly, scale is the name of the game. So you can really rapidly scale your business by finding new customers and supporting them through this technology. So I'm open for some questions if there is somebody in the audience who would like to ask.
Well, if there's anybody, please raise your hand. All right. Well, nobody seems to be ready for the Gupshup yet, though. All right, but I must say what a wonderful session we had, Mr. Vijay Raghavan. We thoroughly enjoyed it, and so much of learning we had through this session. Thank you so very much. Thank you.
Sure. And by the way, you can experience some of these things at our stall. We have a presence, physical presence at the event. So when you have some time today, please drop by. And my colleagues Abhishek and Meet will be able to demonstrate some of this to you.
Thank you, thank you. Can we hear it loud from Mr. Vijay Raghavan, everyone?
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you once again, Mr. Raghavan. Thank you so very much.